previous actual letter viewers for batch 2. Had I studied very well, I rewarded with vacation in the US. Letter A was, letter B would have been, letter C will be, letter D would be. The correct answer is letter B, would have been. When helping in the kitchen, I am always careful not to hurt. A. Ourselves. B. Myself. C. Himself. D. Herself. The correct answer is letter B, myself. Neither the teacher nor the students present in the fairs. Letter A were, letter B letter C is, letter D was. The correct answer is letter A, were. Some preachers suggest the proposal, prophetic, prophecy, prophet, the end of the world is near. The correct answer is letter C, prophecy. A story put together through an exchange of letters is called literature. A. Fiction. B. Spittolery. C. Episodic. D. Classic. The correct answer is letter B, epistolary. What figure of speech is the following? He is the black sheep of the family. Letter A, metaphor. Letter B, simile. Letter C, alliteration. Letter D, hyperbole. The correct answer is letter D, hyperbole. My sister and I met an acquaintance of on the shopping mall. Letter A, ours. Letter B, us. Letter C, mine. Letter D, ourselves. The correct answer is letter A, ours. We admire when Cynthia speaks English fluently with letter A, him, them. Letter B, him, we. Letter C, her, us. Letter D, him, me. The correct answer is letter C, her, us. On your trip to Tagaytay, if you chance upon our Arsenio, please give my warm regards. Letter A, himself. Letter B, myself. Letter C, him. Letter D, me. The correct answer is letter C, him. The students' request to reset the test were reasonable, very reasonable, or reasonable, is reasonable. The correct answer is letter D, is. My concept of inner peace came from my mother's daily activities, which I now recall with fondness and awe. She was full-time housewife, wholly dependent on my father's monthly salary. how she made both ends meet, guided us in our studies, and did small acts of charity on the side was beyond me. The mother's financial resources are letter A, more than enough, letter B, abundant, letter C, miserable, letter D, limited. The correct answer is limited. The figures must be transmuted in order to understand the grade. The capitalized word means letter A, estimated, letter B, change, letter C, surpassed, letter D, sum. The correct answer is letter B, change. The courage of the child who saved his brother from a raging fire is worth letter A, emulating, letter B, mentoring, letter C, narrating, letter D, watching. The correct answer is letter A, emulating. The expression of Badui connotes letter A, uneducated, letter B, low profile, letter C, awkward looking, letter D, smart. The correct answer is letter C, awkward looking. Several factors must be assessed to arrive at a sound letter A, query, letter B, decision, letter C, change, letter D, problem. The correct answer is letter B, decision. Because of profanity, the program was suspended from television. The capitalized word means letter A, obscenity, letter B, history, letter C, decency, letter D, falsehood. The correct answer is letter A, obscenity. What figure of speech is the Lord is my shepherd? Letter A, simile, letter B, hyperbole, letter C, irony, letter D, metaphor. The correct answer is letter D, metaphor. Sturdy and strong, the Filipinos are like the mole. Is A, simile, B, irony, letter C, metaphor, letter D, hyperbole. The correct answer is letter A, simile. She is a lovely rose. Is A, simile, B, hyperbole, letter C, irony, letter D, metaphor. The correct answer is letter D, metaphor. It dropped as a gentle rain from heaven is what figure of speech? Letter A, personification, letter B, simile, letter C, hyperbole, letter D, metaphor. The correct answer is letter B, simile.